We're here to inspire, inform, and connect a community of entrepreneurs. This is Business Rockstars, and today I have two rock stars, Bree Seeley and Thais Sky. They are the co-founders of the Amplify Collective, and it's so fun getting to chat with you guys here since I know you outside of Business Rockstars. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So if you guys could start out by telling us, what is the Amplify Collective?
So we started as dinner parties, and now we are an organization that is changing the way women come together. We got so frustrated when I first moved to LA, and again and again and again, I would have to go to these networking experiences to meet anybody, and the networking experiences were so awful and awkward, and it's taught for generations that this is how you're supposed to network. And there's even tips, right? You have the drink in the one hand and then the business card in the other, and this is all you do, right? Like you give and push.
And you don't have a hand for the appetizers. That's always been so frustrating to me. What the heck?
And then if you are eating, that's awkward because then you're talking and eating, and it's just the whole thing. And I'm an introvert, and it just was not jiving with me. And I realized, then how else am I supposed to meet really amazing, awesome entrepreneurs and people doing amazing things in the city? And I hit a roadblock. I didn't know what to do. And so through some magical experiences, Bree and I created an organization to address this, to support women in connecting and networking and cultivating community in a way that actually empowers us and makes us feel like we have a community instead of just shoving business cards down each other's throats.
Yeah. So did you feel like the missing link was that connection component?
Absolutely. I mean, so much about business networking is selling to people. The whole event is all you like pitching yourself about how great you are and how to sell, your services to other people. And you don't actually get to know anyone. And so one of the experiences I had when I first came to LA was at this event, and this man came up to me, business card extended, before he even approached me and said, "You need my business." And I was like,
"You don't even know my name."
You don't even know who I am. And he's like, "Well, I run a mobile shredding company." And at the time I was like, "Well, I'm a fashion designer, so thank you, and I don't need your business." And so we approach people with all these presumptions that they need us. And Thais and I both are very clear, even as entrepreneurs, like no one needs us, And so what if you can build relationships first and then do business second? And then you end up doing business with people you actually like.
And trust.
It feels better. It makes the whole process so much easier.
Yeah. So you've coined the term unnetworking.
We have.
I'm sure you have explained it a little bit already, but expand on what you mean by unnetworking.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially when women come into our events, we ask them to not start the conversation with, "So what do you do?"
Which is the huge cliche in LA that everybody starts a conversation that way.
Right. And the reason why that's so problematic is that the minute I ask you, "What do you do?" I'm thinking, hopefully what you do addresses my need. And if for whatever reason what you do doesn't serve me in some capacity, I immediately become disengaged. I mean, this is just how our minds work. It's biology. So if you come up to me and you say, "I'm an accountant," and I immediately think, great, but I don't need an accountant, it's very hard for me to then pretend to care.
Then you kind of check out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we propose, what if instead of asking what you do, you ask a series of other questions that allow you to actually get to know the person outside of that. And then if the conversation of what you do comes up, which inevitably does, we're passionate entrepreneurs, we have a baseline. We have a way we've already connected. And so then when you say, "I'm an accountant," I can be like, "Oh, but you also expressed an interest in gardening. That's really cool. How do you juggle that? What does that look like?" And we've seen it again and again and again at our events. Women leave with being seen. They leave being heard. They leave feeling like they have relationships.
We're going to talk more about that when we come back with the co-founders of the Amplify Collective. We're here to inspire, inform, and connect a community of entrepreneurs. This is Business Rockstars. We're here to inspire, inform, and connect a community of entrepreneurs. This is Business Rockstars, and these are my rockstar guests. We've got Bree Seeley and Thais Sky. They're the co-founders of the Amplify Collective. And before break, we were talking about how you guys don't believe in competition, you believe in collaboration. So tell me more about that.
Well, so our businesses are diametrically opposed. I mean, while we have different styles and we talk about different things, we reach the same women. And so when we first started thinking about bringing together our business, or not our business, but bringing together our resources and creating the Amplify Collective, we got a lot of opposition from people saying, "Well, you can't do that because you're competing against each other. Like, you guys can't start a business together. That takes away your power and your focus from your business. And we had to seriously consider if we were going to be willing to let that be our story. And we ultimately decided that Amplify is too important. This idea, this mission that we have in the world is just too important to be in a space of lack. And what we found is that by bringing our resources into Amplify, not only have I seen my own business flourish and succeed, I've seen her business flourish and succeed, but we both have an abundance of money and clients. It's not like we're scrapping against each other for a tiny little, pile of clients. We're finding that Amplify is amplifying our businesses.
So not only when you come together is it not a problem, it actually can enhance what you've got going on.
Oh,
yeah,
totally.
and this is too, I know we'll get into this, but after the dinner parties, our business expanded into a membership. And when we started talking about what that membership was, that community, what were the founding values that we wanted to infuse into that community. And our main principle is that the rising tide raises all ships. And so by you succeeding, it's also me succeeding and her succeeding, just by the simple fact that we're in community together and we're all doing great things to elevate the entirety of the community, not just a single person here or there.
Walk me through how you actually turned it into a business.
Well, we started with dinner parties, and we were totally fine with having it be dinner parties. We were serving about 14 women a month, and that felt doable. But then we were starting to sell out 2 weeks in advance, and then 4 weeks in advance, and then
3 months in
3
advance.
months in advance. And, we can only serve 14 women a month, so that was starting to become problematic. We were finding that this concept was landing amongst our women. We were finding that women wanted to be a part of this, but we could only serve 14, and they had to wait 6 months before they could join a dinner. And so instead of raising our rates and making our model go through that realm, we first decided, why don't we extend it to Seattle? So we brought on 2 amazing women in Seattle, and they started doing dinner parties in Seattle. And so Seattle was having a hard time getting traction. And we had to reevaluate. And I think it was, March of last year?
Yeah, so we made a 6-month commitment with the women in Seattle. And so halfway through that commitment, Tice and I got really clear that this isn't working. We're still not creating the impact we want to make. How do we take this stuff deeper? Because having one-off events just isn't building the kind of community we want, the connections we want, that kind of stuff. How do we take this deeper? And so we both had brilliant ideas separately, and then we came together and realized that we'd had the same idea.
I love it.
Yeah. So we started the Coterie, which is our membership, and we do right now about 4 events a month for our women. And it's shifted a lot over the last year. But it's exciting. We have a great membership of women, and we're just constantly coming up with ways and schemes to serve them more and bring about more community and more intimacy and more connection with all of our members. And then from there, a few months later, we launched our podcast because, of course, we do want to take this larger than just LA. So how do we start serving women all over the country? And so we launched our podcast, which has been going really well. And then it wasn't until really even 6 months after that we signed business papers together. So we really took it step by step by step. So dinner parties to the membership to our podcast, we started a partnership agreement, and then we filed our S Corp
So
after
there's
that.
2 things that were really important for us in growing this business, especially as partners, because there's a whole different dynamic than starting your own idea, than starting a venture with somebody else. So one is we only committed to projects for 6 months at a time. And I feel like marriage should be this way too. Except maybe 5 years at a time, where you renew your vows to each other every few years. Are you really still committed to this? And so we do that. Are we still committed to this podcast? Are we still committed to the Coterie? And what I love about that is that it makes sure that we're still aligned with what we're doing. Because the minute one of us feels unaligned or feels not inspired by that idea anymore, you're not going to put as much effort into it. And then the business suffers. And so we have that 6-month checkpoint. Is this feeling really good? And then the other thing that's really important that we found for building a partnership is to take it slow. We started with just 1 dinner party a month. We did that for, I think, 4 months before we even considered expanding to a different city, you know, and we took it super slow, learning about each other in the process. If we had just started, you know, after dinner parties, the whole thing that we have now, I don't know if we would have been equipped to handle it, because there's a lot of communication styles that you have to learn about the other person and how they operate, how they work. And I feel like these things can't be rushed. You have to take time. And the faster you try to force a partnership, the faster it can fall apart.
You're so inspirational. I so appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. Bree Seeley and Thais Sky, co-founders of the Amplify Collective. We are here to inspire, inform, and connect a community of entrepreneurs. This is Business Rockstars.